The series begins 8 years ago, on a rainy night. At that time, a professor named Sukju was caught brutally killing a young man. Detective Muchan stopped him and arrested him. Now, 8 years later, Muchan is investigating an illegal prostitution case. There's a club that forces women to stream and act sexy. The boss of this club is rumored to be violent and bad. Muchan pretended to comment on the live streams to find out where their headquarters are. Once he got the information, Muchan went alone to make the arrest, even without a warrant. At the same time, the woman doing the live streaming was actually an undercover police officer trying to get all the information about the club. When Muchan stops the people there, a policewoman named Juyan starts gathering information. Muchan also plants evidence to make the arrest stronger. Juyan sees this and starts recording the illegal act, but suddenly the nightclub boss comes out and runs away. Luckily, Muchan's detective team arrives and arrests the club boss. Soon after, Muchan takes Juyan's phone and deletes all the videos she recorded of him. Muchan is known among the police as a detective who ignores rules, likes to threaten, and plant evidence. However, he does this to quickly catch criminals in each case. While questioning the nightclub boss, Muchan pretends to hurt himself and would have added it to the police report if the boss didn't confess. This is one of his ways of handling cases, which is why he is called a clever detective. Long story short, because of the previous incident, Juyan is scolded by her superiors for failing her mission. Juyan is also a detective from the Cyber Bureau, so her IT skills are very good. Coincidentally, that day was the release of a criminal named Gichul. However, the public does not agree with Gichul's release because he received a light sentence after committing a crime to teenagers. Therefore, Muchan's team was assigned to watch over Gichul to make sure he got home safely. The community was angry because they thought the police were protecting a criminal. However, Muchan let the people beat Gichul before finally stepping in to take him back to his family. At that time, Gichul was picked up by his wife and lawyer. That evening, Gichul showed he hadn't changed, as he planned to sell videos of teenagers that his wife kept. He thought he wouldn't get in trouble because these teenagers had no one to care for them. Gichul wasn't scared to start selling these videos, even though he had just left prison. He had planned all this while in prison and even married a foreign woman to get a lighter sentence. After getting out, he didn't care about his wife. Unexpectedly, Muchan had worked with Gichul's wife because he still suspected Gichul had hidden evidence. Muchan asked her to take Gichul's hard disk and give it to the police, promising she could stay in Korea safely. He also thought Gichul had been hurting his wife. One day, Gichul came home drunk and hurt his wife again, even in public, and Muchan, who was nearby, decided to help her. He covered his face and destroyed the CCTV cameras so no one would know he had beaten Gichul. On the other hand, Jian always picks up her younger sister, Jumin, who is still in high school. They live together because their parents have passed away. Jumin has different dreams from her sister. She really wants to become a reporter. One night, Jian helped her sister fix her laptop, which had a virus. As a cyber police officer, it was easy for Juyan to handle. But then, Juyan found a suspicious file and turned it into a video. Surprisingly, the video showed a masked man threatening to kill criminals. He said he was one of their victims, and that's why he was doing this. The next day, Jian told her boss about the video and wanted to find out what the man's message meant. But her boss didn't agree and thought it was just someone playing around on the internet. Her boss told Jian not to do anything strange and just follow orders. In fact, her boss never gave her any real tasks, so Juyan felt like she wasn't treated as a real police officer. That's why Juyan always looks for crime cases on her own. She decided to go to the Nambu police station and accidentally saw Gichul there, accusing Muchan of attacking him the night before. However, there was no evidence, so Gichul's accusation couldn't be proven. In the evening, suddenly all Korean citizens aged 18 and over received a message on their cell phones about deciding whether to execute Gichul. The police also got the message, including Muchan and Jian. The message gave people 1 hour to choose between agreeing or not. At that time, Jian, who was picking up Jumin, asked Jumin and her classmates to delete the message. However, Jian started to feel something was strange because everyone was getting the same message. The message asked Korean citizens to simply vote yes or no on executing Gichul. Meanwhile, Gichul himself was not afraid. He thought it was just the police trying to scare him. Arrogantly, he told everyone to vote yes, and in the end, 84% voted for him to be executed. After 1 hour, Gichul was actually kidnapped and was about to be executed by a man wearing a dog mask. The next day, his body was found with his mouth torn and stuffed with money. The examination showed no fingerprints or footprints, so it couldn't be determined who did it. Therefore, the Cyber Bureau was called to investigate further. Everyone still doesn't know if Gichul's death was connected to the message. There, Muchan couldn't give much information to reporters because the investigation didn't reveal anything. Not long after, everyone got another message from the man wearing the dog mask. People could ignore the message by pressing the X button, but nobody did because they were curious. Soon after, the masked man called Gital and admitted in his video that he had executed Gichul. He explained all the crimes Gichul had committed and said that Gichul deserved to be executed for them. Gital said he did this to get justice because Gichul was only sentenced to half a year for his terrible actions. Shortly after, the masked man also showed a video of Gichul confessing that he had many videos the police couldn't find and that he planned to sell them after getting out of prison. Gichul was making money from these videos. Because Korea's laws are not strict enough, the masked man decided to take the law into his own hands to be tougher on criminals. The man in the mask said he would execute more criminals who were released by the law in Korea. He also said that on the 15th and 30th of each month, Korean citizens would get messages about executing criminals who got light sentences for serious crimes. If more than 50% voted for execution, he would carry it out. The next day, the police chief created a special team to catch the masked man. The police chief was worried that the masked man would make people think badly of the police because he seemed like a hero. In the end, Detective Muchan was chosen to be the leader of the special team. Muchan asked for a promotion and to join the central investigation team if he was successful, and his request was accepted as long as he could catch the masked man quickly. Then, a special team was formed, and one of Juyeon's friends named Jo Dun was also recruited. Meanwhile, Juyeon was still in her office without any assignments, even though she really wanted to investigate the case of the man in the dog mask. Sometime later, an investigative meeting was held. From the information gathered, it seemed that Gichul was kidnapped after leaving a bar. Muchan suspected that the taxi driver might be involved in the kidnapping. The masked man had not been identified yet, so the Cyber Bureau was tasked with getting more information. Unexpectedly, Juyeon went to the Nambu police station to meet Muchan. At first, Muchan ignored her, but when Juyeon told him about the man in the dog mask, he listened. Juyeon shared a video she got from her sister's laptop. She focused on the words, "innocent devil," said by the masked man. 8 years ago, a man at a trial, Sukju, said similar words. Then, Juyeon concluded that Sukju is the person behind the masked man. This might have happened because Sukju killed the criminal who hurt his daughter and now wants to bring all criminals to justice. Muchan remembered the past when he caught Sukju. Back then, Sukju willingly went to prison and admitted all his mistakes, but he did it because he wanted revenge against the person who hurt his daughter. Sukju was unhappy because his daughter's killer got a light sentence and was free to roam outside. Muchan asked Juyeon how she knew the trial results since they were confidential. Juyeon explained that her team had hacked the court website and found the case. After explaining all the clues, Juyeon wanted to join the special team to investigate the video further. At first, Muchan refused because he thought Juyeon's conclusion had no proof. Sukju was in prison and couldn't have committed the murders like the masked man did. But the next day, Muchan changed his mind. He needed Juyeon to investigate the video of Gital, the masked man. In prison, Sukju was highly respected by the other inmates because he was a very good prisoner. There was even one prisoner whose tuition fees were paid by Sukju. Muchan tried to visit Sukju in prison, but the prison head said Sukju didn't want any visitors for now. He also learned from the warden that Sukju never had visitors. When the warden left, another guard named Chulming offered to help Muchan with information about Sukju. Meanwhile, Muchan's colleague Jin-soo was investigating the bar where Gichul was last seen. Jin-soo checked the CCTV footage, but didn't find anything useful. Soon after, Muchan arrived and suspected one of the bar workers might be involved in Gichul's kidnapping because he ordered the taxi. At first, the worker said the taxi was just waiting outside when Gichul left. But after some pressure from Muchan, the worker admitted he was paid to put Gichul in a waiting taxi. He also gave Muchan the driver's business card after being threatened. Shortly after, Muchan and his team rushed to the taxi pool and met the driver. The driver explained he was just a substitute and was called to pick up Gi-chul. After dropping Gi-chul off at the requested location, he got a message to take money from the glove box and leave the taxi in a parking lot. The driver didn't know where Gi-chul went. He gave Muchan the message sender's phone number and the taxi's license plate number. After searching, Muchan and his team found that the car was no longer registered and had been repainted. They couldn't find the taxi because it had been destroyed in a junkyard. In the end, they failed to get the dashboard camera footage from the car. In the evening, Juyan and Joe Dunn managed to track the IP address of the masked man. They, along with Muchan, started searching the building where they thought Gi-tao was hiding. There, Jinsu also found an internet cable that might be used by Gi-tao. Meanwhile, Juyan tried to retrieve data from that place to analyze it back at the office. At school, Jumin's teacher, Min-soo, said the masked man did all that because he was unhappy with the justice system in Korea and that there might be more executions. Hearing this, a student named Ji-hoon agreed with the masked man, saying that sometimes bloodshed is needed to make changes. Later, with Muchan's approval, Jian wanted to question inmates who were in the same prison as Gi-chul to get more information. However, during the interview, Jian felt something was strange in the prison. Unfortunately, she didn't find any useful information, and most prisoners didn't like Gi-chul. In another part of the prison, Sukju was getting special treatment from the chief warden. Soon after, Chulming came in and didn't like Sukju because he thought Sukju was a murderer who didn't deserve special treatment. At first, Sukju didn't care about Juyan's visit, but when he found out she was asking about the words innocent devil, he wanted to meet her. Without wasting time, Jian asked Sukju if he was connected to the masked man, but Sukju denied it. He said that just because someone uses the same words doesn't mean they are related. However, Jian suspected that the person behind all this was someone who attended Sukju's trial. Then, Sukju gave Jian some advice. He said that if she couldn't find the masked man, she should try not to find the victim first, so the execution would fail. Sukju seemed to know who Gi-tao's next target was, but didn't want to tell Juyan. After leaving the prison, Jian reported what Sukju said to Muchan. There, Muchan thought that Sukju might be connected to the masked man indirectly. Maybe the killer was someone close to him. Jian then started looking for all the people who had close contact with Sukju. She and Joe Dunn also searched for former criminals who might be Gi-tao's next targets. Elsewhere, there was a cruel woman who liked to hurt her children. She even tried to kill her 2 kids. Suddenly, the woman was mysteriously kidnapped. Meanwhile, the police started moving to find and protect people who might be Gi-tao's targets. Joe Dunn and Juyan stayed in the office to watch internet activity and search for information on the computer. Many people were eagerly waiting for Gi-tao's next execution, excited to see who the next target would be. Finally, Gi-tao sent another video message about the second execution, giving Korean citizens 60 minutes to choose. This time, he revealed the identity of the criminal at the beginning. The target was Eun-kyung, the woman who was kidnapped earlier. Knowing this, Joe Dunn and Jian quickly sent Eun-kyung's identity and address to the field team so that Muchan could find her quickly. In the video, Gi-tao explained the crimes Eun-kyung had committed. She stole insurance money from her rich husbands. Turns out, she had been married several times and purposely killed her husbands to get their insurance money. She manipulated things so that her crimes were not discovered, making her husband's deaths look like unavoidable accidents. The police couldn't prove her crimes, so Eun-kyung roamed freely with the money she got from her husband's deaths. Not only that, Eun-kyung also hurt her children and even tried to kill them for insurance money. These crimes made Gi-tao decide to execute her. As time passed, the special team and police searched for Eun-kyung and secured her children. Finally, they found Eun-kyung in a car, but she couldn't move because her body was fitted with a bomb. As usual, Gi-tao recorded a video to force his target to admit their mistakes before being executed. There, Eun-kyung admitted that she killed her husbands and took their insurance money. At the same time, Muchan decided to move the car with Eun-kyung to the safest place to minimize damage if the bomb exploded. Unexpectedly, the closest place Muchan chose was Jumin's school field. Knowing this, Jian rushed there before time ran out, and the police quickly informed everyone to evacuate the school, ensuring all students left early. Jian was worried because she hadn't found Jumin yet. Luckily, Ji-hoon told her where Jumin was. Soon after, Jian told her sister to go home while she went to the school field. Then, Muchan arrived at the field with limited time. He decided to stay in the car and try to persuade Gital not to set off the bomb. There, Muchan promised to give Eunkyung a fair punishment. Unfortunately, Gital refused, and the bomb exploded. Unfortunately, Jian didn't have time to stop it and was shocked by the explosion because Muchan was still in the car. Meanwhile, Minsu watched the incident from the top of a building with satisfaction. He saw two students secretly recording the incident, and it turned out Minsu had ordered and paid them to do it. Jumin accidentally recorded Minsu's transactions with the students. Long story short, Detective Muchan survived the explosion but was seriously injured and needed intensive treatment in the hospital. Eunkyung, however, did not survive the explosion. After this incident, TV and news reports said that Gital, the masked man, was a bad person because he hurt the police officer Muchan and endangered the safety of the people. They praised Muchan's heroic actions, saying that because of him, civilians survived the explosion even though he had to sacrifice himself. Now, Koreans hate Gital because he detonated the bomb even though there were police in the car. They believe Gital is a murderer who caused innocent people to get hurt. The police chief also called Gital a cruel terrorist who endangers citizens. He said Muchan was dying because of Gital's actions, so the police would punish Gital harshly. Meanwhile, Jian was worried about Muchan and tried calling him but got no answer. So, she decided to go to the hospital where Muchan was being treated. However, it turns out that Muchan is not really dying. When the explosion happened, he managed to get out of the car. But he still tried to help Eunkyung before the second explosion. Seeing this, Jian quickly saved Muchan and took him away from the explosion. However, no one knew about it, so Muchan made a plan to trick the Korean people. Even his team didn't know, except for Jinsu and a reporter named Do-hee. By lying to the Korean people that Muchan was dying because of the explosion caused by the masked man, they hoped to change the view of Gital as a dangerous murderer who could harm the police and civilians. But the police chief was worried about this plan because if the truth came out, it would make the police look bad, and people might start supporting Gital again. Meanwhile, Jian sneaked into the hospital to find out what really happened to Muchan. She was angry when she discovered the lies Muchan had planned. At school, Jihoon was jealous of Minsu because he often talked to Jumin. There, Jihoon tried to help Jumin when her computer had an error. Jihoon also felt something was strange about Minsu's behavior. Unexpectedly, Jihoon and Jumin became close after he helped her fix her computer since he was good with computers. Jumin even invited Jihoon to her house to analyze a video of the masked man that her brother had found on his laptop. They started to analyze the video together. Jumin thought she heard the sound of a siren in the video, but it was too faint to confirm. Thanks to Jihoon's skills in editing videos and enhancing the background sound, they could hear the sirens clearly. Not long after, Jian arrived, and the two didn't notice her at first. Jian was very angry because high school students were getting involved in police matters. However, she joined the discussion when they told her what they had found. Jian realized the masked man might have recorded the video during a fire and started looking for the location where the fire happened. After searching several places, Jian realized one of them was Sukju's house. She quickly headed there, and Jumin and Jihoon went along, even though Juyan initially didn't allow it. When they arrived, Jian asked Jihoon and Jumin to wait in front of the house and not to do anything. She also asked Jumin to activate the GPS on her phone so their locations could be tracked. Then, Jian sent a message to Muchan, asking for permission to enter Sukju's house. After learning about this, Muchan asked Jinsu to change clothes and take his place in the hospital room. At that time, Muchan planned to escape from the hospital and follow Jian. Meanwhile, Jian managed to sneak into Sukju's house. Since Sukju's son died and Sukju went to prison, the house had been empty and uninhabited. Finally, Jian was shocked to find a room with writing on the wall using blood and lots of information about the person who killed Sukju's daughter. Suddenly, someone hit Jian from behind, causing her to faint. Meanwhile, Jumin was worried because her sister's GPS wasn't moving and wanted to go inside. However, Jihoon stopped her until Muchan arrived. They were both surprised to see Muchan looking healthy. Muchan was annoyed with Jian for bringing high school students there. He followed Jian into the house and found her unconscious on the floor. He also saw a mysterious man but couldn't catch him because the man was good at fighting. On the other hand, Jumin managed to spot the man when he left the house, but Jihoon told her to let him go to avoid getting hurt. In the end, the mysterious man escaped. Meanwhile, Gital saw social media comments where Korean citizens were criticizing his actions, saying he was endangering innocent people. The next day, Muchan and Juyeon met Sukju in prison to question him about his relationship with Gital. Juyeon explained that there were several clues at Sukju's house that could prove he was connected to Gital. Surprisingly, Sukju suggested that Gital might be Muchan. Sukju said this because Muchan was very close to his daughter and respected Sukju. Muchan also knew about the innocent devil words because he attended Sukju's trial. In fact, Muchan was the one who wrote on Sukju's bedroom wall. 8 years ago, when Sukju's daughter died, Muchan was assigned to investigate the case. At that time, Sukju was devastated and almost went crazy, and Muchan, who was close to Sukju's daughter, felt the same. Muchan was the first to challenge the trial results because the perpetrator was released without punishment. That's why Sukju thought Gital might be Muchan. After meeting Sukju, Jiyeon asked Muchan many questions, but he didn't answer any of them. When they were about to leave the prison, a message from Gital was suddenly delivered. Gital wanted to reveal a video of the car explosion showing Muchan surviving because Juyeon helped him. The video was probably recorded by a student who was paid by Min-soo. As they left the prison, reporters were waiting to ask Muchan about lying to the Korean people. Muchan tried to stay calm and apologized to everyone for his actions. He admitted that people would lose trust in the police. Muchan also told Gital that he is not a hero and promised to catch him. Knowing this news, the special police team was disappointed with Muchan because he had been hiding his plans. And Jin-soo, who knew beforehand, asked them not to judge Muchan harshly, saying there must be a reason for what he did. Soon after, civilians who initially supported the police changed their minds and started mocking the police on social media. They also began to side with Gital. To protect himself, Muchan temporarily stayed at Jiyeon's house, leading to a debate between Jumin and Muchan because Jumin didn't like him being there. But after hearing Jiyeon's story about Jumin's analysis of Gital's previous video, Muchan realized that Jumin had a talent for being a police officer. Jumin also mentioned smelling gunpowder on the clothes of the mysterious man she caught at Sukju's house. Jumin thought that the man might be connected to the car explosion and could be Gital. However, there was another debate because Jumin supported Gital while Muchan wanted to arrest him, believing he had no right to punish people. Muchan also said he had lost someone he loved, but didn't need to take revenge like that. After that, Muchan asked Jumin and Jihoon to come to the police station the next day to get more information about the video analysis. Jiyeon shared that she had an accident where hot metal burned the skin behind her ear. This injury causes her to feel heat in that area whenever she is stressed. Not long after, Muchan received a message that Gichul's wife had been killed by a mysterious person, and her death was very similar to Gichul's. The next day at school, Jihoon kept an eye on Min-soo, who seemed suspicious. Suddenly, the students were shocked by a bullying incident. A school bully was abusing other students and demanding money from them. Brave Jumin managed to stop the bully, but he tried to hit her. Luckily, Jihoon stepped in to protect Jumin. Meanwhile, Muchan returned to the special team office after lying to the public. All the members looked disappointed with Muchan for lying to them. There, he apologized and said he would accept the consequences. However, the team didn't hate Muchan cause they were happy he survived the incident. They were just disappointed that Muchan didn't involve them in his plan. In the end, they worked together again to investigate Gital's case and start looking into the person who killed Gichul's wife. Muchan thinks this person is the same one involved in the Gital case. They also became suspicious of Dongyu, the taxi driver the police had questioned, because he was seen at Gichul's funeral. Sometime later, Jiyeon got news from a teacher that Jumin was in the hospital. Jiyeon rushed there. At that time, Jumin accidentally saw a doctor named Dr. O harassing female patients by taking photos of their body parts. At first, Jumin wanted to stop him, but Jihoon advised against it because it could cause trouble without solid evidence. Meanwhile, Min-soo explained to Jiyeon what had happened to Jihoon and Jiyeon. After that, Jihoon apologized to his grandmother, who was a doctor there, because of Jumin's actions. After they left, Jihoon's grandmother asked him not to be close to Jumin because she thought Jumin was dangerous, especially since her sister was a police officer. After that, Jiyeon visited Do-hee, a reporter and old friend, because she thought Do-hee might have contacts or know how to reach Gital. Do-hee always got news about Gital early, so Jiyeon wanted to ask her how to contact him. However, Do-hee avoided the question, leading to a commotion between them. Failing to get any information, Jian left, while Doohee quickly deleted a message about the truth of the previous explosion. Meanwhile, Muchan met with the warden, Cholming, because he found important information about Sukju. Sukju always received letters in prison, and the letters were related to Gitao. Turns out, Cholming had collected copies of these letters and wanted payment for the information. However, Muchan threatened to arrest Cholming for stealing private information. Afterwards, Muchan asked Jian to analyze the letters he got from Cholming. With her great abilities, Jian analyzed the letters word by word and even checked where they were sent from. The letters revealed that Gitao's actions were because he was upset about the lenient laws in Korea against criminals. Gitao mentioned he was carrying out targeted executions of criminals, and it seemed Sukju knew who the victims would be before the executions. The letters were signed by someone claiming to be Sukju's #1 fan. The next day, Juyan meets Sukju again. At that moment, Muchan watches from a CCTV, so Sukju doesn't get stressed seeing him. To make Sukju calmer during the interrogation, Jian played his favorite song from Sukju's house. Muchan also asked Jian to stay calm because Sukju is good at reading people's movements. Based on her previous analysis, Jian is sure that Sukju knows who the next victim will be. But Sukju says he doesn't know exactly who Gitao's next target is. The letter that Muchan got was incomplete and missing pages that describe the victim. Sukju says he memorized this information but threw away the pages. He also knows that Muchan has been watching them. So, Sukju asks for an official request that Muchan must get him out of prison if he wants more information. Sukju also wants to join the special police team's investigation on the Gitao case. In the end, Sukju is released on parole with a tracking bracelet on his leg to help catch Gitao. He is placed in a police station designed to monitor him so he can't escape. No one should know about Sukju's release to avoid misunderstandings in society. Muchan did all this so Sukju could help him catch Gitao. If successful, Sukju's prison term might be reduced. Sukju remembers Muchan's words about the law being unfair in acquitting his daughter's murderer. He still thinks that Muchan is Gitao. However, Muchan doesn't respond and just walks away. The next day, they held another meeting to discuss who might be Gitao's next target. Jian found data showing that the Korean military had many cases of rape. She believed that one of the people involved in these cases would be Gitao's next victim. There were 9 cases where the offenders had been to prison and were now released. Jian asked the team to focus on monitoring these 9 people. Muchan's team started visiting these offenders and gave them special watches that could signal the police in an emergency. However, it was difficult because all of them refused to wear the watches. The schedule for selecting execution targets was approaching, so Muchan planned to bring Sukju to the execution site, thinking that Gitao always carried out the executions himself. If Sukju saw Gitao, they would know who he was. It was risky, but Muchan wanted to do it to catch Gitao faster. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Dr. O was attacked by an old man who demanded his daughter back. The old man seemed crazy, so the security officers arrested him. However, Dr. O acted kind and offered to help the old man. Unexpectedly, Dr. O, who seemed good, actually tortured the old man. Dr. O was a bad person who secretly recorded his patients and sold the videos online. One day, Dr. O received a private message on his buying and selling site from a mysterious person threatening to reveal all his crimes. However, he was not afraid. When Dr. O left, his laptop, which was still on, was hacked, likely by Gitao. All the photos and videos belonging to Dr. O were deleted, and the laptop was formatted. In the evening, Jumin offered to help take Ji-hoon to the hospital to check his hand. Ji-hoon told Jumin to buy bread outside because he didn't want his grandmother to see him with Jumin. Meanwhile, Jian and Sukju were together, analyzing data about the people close to Sukju, trying to identify who might be Gitao. One of Sukju's neighbors, Ji-young, was on the list. Ji-young is a wealthy party counselor and the mother of Min-soo. Soon after, the execution selection began. As usual, everyone received a message from Gitao. This time, Gitao explained that the target was a military man named Captain O, who had committed sexual violence in the military. The victim committed to hurt herself, and her family was devastated. However, Captain O was still free, enjoying his wealth and freedom. Knowing this, Jo Dun immediately looked for someone named O, but he couldn't find him for sure because O is a common surname, and there were 5 people with that name. Soon after, The team started calling them to find their locations, but two people couldn't be identified, and it would take time to trace their identities from their ID cards. Finally, someone called the police and said he was the target. He said his name was Oh Young, one of the people not identified by the police. There, Joe Dunn confirmed that this person was the target, especially when he admitted receiving a package with photos. Muchan and his team immediately went to the location Oh Young gave. Muchan also asked Jian to bring Sukju to that location to provoke Gital. At that time, everyone watching Gital's broadcast was wondering what Captain O's full name was. Meanwhile, Dr. O started to panic because the characteristics and past events described matched his. He was sure Gital was targeting him, so he called the police for help. Jian discovered that the person raped by Captain O was a female lieutenant at the hospital. Sukju thought that Dr. O was a military captain in the medical field. Muchan was still arguing with the two people who called him, both claiming to be Captain O. Muchan asked questions related to Captain O, and both answered correctly, making him even more confused. Meanwhile, Juyan and Sukju decided to go to the hospital. Sukju was sure that Captain O was there, and Gital might be too. When Jinsu and the team arrived at the first location, they realized they had been fooled. The first person tricked the police by using a feature that allows one number to be used on two cell phones, so the police could only detect the location of the first number. In the end, everyone headed to the hospital because Captain O was actually Dr. O, and he was there. Meanwhile, in his room, Dr. O was surprised because Ji-hoon suddenly appeared. He detained Ji-hoon, thinking he was Gital's spy, even though Ji-hoon had come to check his wound. On the other hand, Jian told Sukju to wear a mask so people wouldn't recognize him, and then they went to look for Dr. O. However, none of the hospital staff knew where Dr. O was because he was hiding in his room. At that moment, Dr. O didn't open the door until the police actually arrived. Ji-hoon, who wanted to leave the room, was not allowed to buy Dr. O. Shortly after, Jian finally found Dr. O's room, but he didn't believe her and wouldn't open the door. Sukju told Jian to look for someone nearby who might be Gital in disguise. The execution vote results came in, showing that 72% of the public agreed Captain O should be executed. Gital then revealed Captain O's identity that he was a doctor named Oh Jung-so. Turns out, Captain O had changed his name and, with the help of a friend, became a doctor at a public hospital. Knowing this, all the hospital staff were shocked. And Dr. O, realizing what was happening, panicked and tried to erase all traces, but Gital had already spread all the videos and chat evidence online. Meanwhile, Sukju saw a mysterious person carrying a box. It turned out to be a courier who always delivered packages to his house. Sukju was sure this person was Gital and told Jian. However, the man ran away and left a box. When Sukju approached it, he realized it was a bomb, and it exploded, causing everyone to panic. There, Jian tried to chase the mysterious person, but Gital managed to lock all the gates, trapping everyone inside. Outside the hospital, Minsu witnessed the chaos and looked happy, even surprised to see Sukju out of prison. Meanwhile, Jian was almost killed by the mysterious man, but Sukju arrived just in time to save her. Not long after, Muchan managed to break through the gate, allowing everyone to be evacuated. Ji-hoon, however, was still trapped inside and informed Jumin via chat that he was being held by Captain O, also known as Dr. O. At that moment, Dr. O refused to let anyone in except the police. He was even suspicious when a bomb squad sent by the police arrived. When Dr. O was about to open the door, he realized the man wasn't from the police but from Gital's team. Shortly after, Dr. O reconsidered opening the door, but Gital's team sprayed gas into the room because he refused to come out. With no other choice, Dr. O showed up holding Ji-hoon hostage and saw a man ready to kill him. However, the man couldn't shoot directly because Ji-hoon was in the way. There, Ji-hoon tried to fight back, getting a small cut on his neck. Just then, Muchan arrived in time to stop the murder and save them. Not long after, Sukju and Jian arrived, but Sukju didn't recognize the man. Then, the situation became tense, so Sukju threw an extinguisher into the corridor to divert their attention. Muchan tried to shoot the man when he was off guard, but the man managed to slash Dr. O even though he was hit by Muchan's shot. After this incident, Ji-hoon felt traumatized because he saw the murder happen. Muchan was also angry with Sukju because his actions led to Dr. O's death. However, Sukju didn't regret the murder of Dr. O. In fact, Sukju even thought that Muchan actually wanted to kill Dr. O. Soon after, Muchan interrogated the man who killed Dr. O, but he didn't say a word. He didn't have an ID card, so the police couldn't find his data. Muchan suspected the man was Gitao, possibly Sukju's #1 fan, but he didn't know the man's reasons or main plan. The man only explained that he was working alone and that the recordings shown on their cell phones were pre-recorded and then broadcast. Then, Muchan also noticed a scar on the man's ear and suspected it was from a fight at Sukju's house. Sometime later, after investigating, it turned out that the person was named Jinwook, a former military man and the fiancé of the female lieutenant who was assaulted by Dr. O. However, other information said that Jinwook was dead. Muchan believed that Jinwook had faked his death. However, Muchan's leaders stated that Jinwook was Gitao and decided to disband the special team because they thought the mission was complete. But Muchan had doubts and did not want the special team to be disbanded. He believed that Jinwook was not the only Gitao. After more investigation, they found that Jinwook was indeed a former military member who wanted revenge after his fiancée was raped by Captain O. Jinwook tried to get revenge, but the military stopped him, dismissed him, and reported him as dead. Jinwook then created a new identity. Muchan told Sukju that his leader had disbanded the team, so Sukju would be sent back to prison. However, Muchan had other plans. He would pretend to close the case but secretly continue investigating by setting a trap. Sukju got angry and remembered the past when his daughter died. There were 2 fingerprints identified at the scene, and Muchan knew who the second perpetrator was, but he chose to remain silent and pretend not to know. At that time, Muchan said he would set a trap to catch the second person involved in Sukju's child's death, but he failed. Sukju demanded that Muchan tell him now, and still hoped that Muchan was Gitao, so he could avenge Sukju's child's death. Long story short, Muchan went to the old man who attacked Captain O. The old man turned out to be the father of the female lieutenant who demanded justice. Muchan invited the old man to meet Jinwook, hoping Jinwook would talk. After meeting, the old man was proud of Jinwook for killing Dr. O, but remembering their child's death made them both sad. In the end, Jinwook was willing to talk about who ordered him, the real Gitao. Jinwook said he had never met the real Gitao because they only communicated through the web. Jinwook did all this to show society the crimes of the people he killed. He said the real Gitao called himself Sukju's #1 fan and confirmed it could be one of Sukju's students. Meanwhile, Jian started looking for information about Minsu and found out that he had changed his identity from Li Yusong to Minsu. Jian also looked for Minsu's phone number and email on Jumin's cell phone. She accidentally found a video of Minsu making transactions with 2 students. Jian tried to hack Minsu's computer using the data from Jumin's cell phone. With her skills, Jian managed to hack Minsu's computer. Unfortunately, Minsu found out and quickly blocked everything. Jian was frustrated because she failed. She didn't expect Minsu's computer to have an expensive security program usually owned by the police. Determined, Jian tried to find more information about Minsu and followed him when he left school. However, she suddenly had a problem and couldn't keep up. Surprisingly, Minsu appeared and offered help. In the end, Minsu gave Jian a ride. Meanwhile, Muchan's team was also looking for information about Minsu. They all suspected him because his actions were very suspicious. Plus, Minsu's mother, a party counselor, had attended Sukju's trial, so Minsu knew about the innocent devil words. At that time, Muchan concluded that Minsu's family might be connected to Gitao. They called Minsu and asked him to accompany Ji-hoon in interrogating Dr. O about the Gitao case. This way, the police could also question Minsu. Coincidentally, Jian was with Minsu and felt scared. But when she got the call, she said Minsu was taking her to the police station. In the end, Minsu took Jian to the police station and agreed to accompany Ji-hoon. Long story short, when Minsu got home, Ji-young questioned why he was killing people again. It was revealed that Minsu was the one who killed Gi-chul's wife. Turns out, Ji-young loves Minsu so much that she allows his actions. The next day, Minsu and Ji-hoon went to the police station, along with Sukju. This was part of Muchan's plan to bring Minsu and Sukju together. In the past, Minsu was named Yusong and was very fond of Professor Sukju. However, Yusong had a mental illness and had to be homeschooled. Despite this, Sukju noticed that Minsu was a smart child and invited him to his lecture class to study law. Since then, Min-soo became very obsessed with Sukju and was extremely happy when he received praise from him. However, Min-soo also felt jealous of anyone close to Sukju, including Sukju's daughter, Nare. One day, Min-soo stole Nare's beloved dog, but his family covered it up so Sukju wouldn't find out, as Ji-young wanted to recruit Sukju as a legal expert for her campaign. When Min-soo's father found out, he was very angry and hit Min-soo. Soon after, their servant boy, Woo-taek, took the blame for stealing Nare's dog and was punished by Min-soo's father. A few days later, a girl's body was found, and it turned out to be Nare. Muchan, who was at the scene, saw Min-soo smiling suspiciously. Although the killer wasn't known yet, the police suspected Sukju. There were also many false accusations against Sukju, claiming he murdered his own child and spreading videos accusing him of being a pervert. The public lost trust in Sukju, but Muchan continued to investigate because he believed someone was trying to ruin Sukju. In his devastated state, Sukju could only surrender, but Muchan promised to catch the real perpetrator. Muchan trusted Sukju and insisted he was Sukju's #1 fan. There, Sukju mentioned that Nare always wore a pink bag and carried a small doll. Muchan then processed the scene and found a cyclist with a camera who regularly passed by. Shortly after, Muchan checked the footage from a few days ago and saw Nare walking alone, followed by Woo-taek. There, Woo-taek told Nare that he knew where her dog was, so she went with him. Muchan interrogated Woo-taek, but he didn't provide any useful information because of his mental illness. However, Woo-taek mentioned Yusong, also known as Min-soo. Soon after, Muchan went to Ji-young's house to meet Yusong, but Ji-young asked Muchan not to believe Woo-taek because he was mentally challenged. Jin-soo, who was helping Muchan, also advised not to accuse Yusong, saying he was still young and sick. However, he explained that Yusong's behavior was very suspicious, and he had seen Yusong smiling at Nare's death. The next day, Yusong went to the police station to give a statement. He said he saw Woo-taek carrying a pink bag at night and acting very suspiciously. Yusong was sure it was Nare's bag. However, Muchan became even more suspicious of Yusong when he saw that his hand was bandaged from an injury. Then, Muchan interrogated Woo-taek again and forced him to confess. In the end, Woo-taek admitted that Yusong was the one who killed Nare. At the trial, the police prosecutor said they would test the fingerprints on Nare's doll to look for Woo-taek's and his partner's prints. However, Woo-taek's lawyer presented other evidence showing that the only fingerprints on Nare's doll were hers. This meant that neither Woo-taek nor Yusong could be confirmed as the murderers. Muchan contested this, stating that Woo-taek had confessed. However, Woo-taek claimed he only confessed because he was threatened by the police. In the end, the judge decided that Woo-taek and Yusong were not guilty due to a lack of evidence. This made Muchan very angry because he felt the real culprit was being released. Sukju tried to calm Muchan down. The next day, Sukju apologized to Woo-taek for accusing him and for the police's mistreatment. Meanwhile, Woo-taek, who is a bit slow, always appreciates apologies, so he unknowingly gave Sukju a recording of Nare's voice as a thank you, and the recording proved that Woo-taek had killed Nare. Upon knowing that, Sukju was furious and planned to take revenge on the person who killed his daughter. That evening, Sukju carried out his plan and killed Woo-taek by stabbing him 13 times, just like at the beginning of the story. That night, Muchan arrived to stop him and arrested Sukju. Muchan was very upset because Sukju had to go to prison. Woo-taek's parents were reported to have hurt himself after their son's death. However, Muchan also saw Yusong at Sukju's court day, smiling with satisfaction. This made Muchan bring Sukju and Yusong, who's now known as Min-soo, together. Back in the present, Ji-hoon and Min-soo were being interrogated. At that time, Min-soo was not allowed to go home because Muchan wanted to interrogate him personally. This was to give Ju-yeon time to go to the teacher's office and retrieve data from Min-soo's computer. They stalled Min-soo so he wouldn't find out. Soon after, Ju-yeon and Ji-hoon went together, but Ji-yeon had a hard time because there was no device to hack the computer. Luckily, Ji-hoon was good at hacking and used special software to recover deleted data. They found a video of a car explosion from Gi-tal's second execution, which showed that Min-soo was connected to Gi-tal and might even be Gi-tal himself. Meanwhile, Muchan talks with Sukju about past events, still suspecting that Yusong, now known as Min-soo, might be the one who killed Nare. Muchan also asks about Sukju's adopted son, who might now be in high school, but Sukju doesn't know since they haven't seen each other in a long time. On the other hand, Ji-yeon is very grateful for Ji-hoon's help. She really likes Ji-hoon, thinking he is a good boy. She also advises Ji-hoon to become a police officer in the cyber department because of his intelligence. Ji-hoon then remembers his past, revealing that he was Sukju's adopted son. In the past, Nare helped a lonely boy, Ji-hoon, and Sukju adopted him because he had no parents. Their life seemed happy, and they were always together until one night Ji-hoon accidentally saw Sukju kill Woo-taek. After that, they never met again. When Jumin helped Ji-hoon with an umbrella, it reminded him of Nare as a child. Meanwhile, Gi-tal used social media to provoke and invite the public to support him, seeking attention to justify his execution of criminals. The next day, Muchan's team continues to watch Min-soo, suspecting he is Gi-tal. Then, Jo-dun noticed something strange, that the electricity usage at Min-soo's house was increasing rapidly, almost like a company's usage. At that moment, Jo-dun tried to offer help to check for an electricity leak, but Min-soo's house refused. Meanwhile, Ji-yeon is very worried about Jumin at school because she fears Min-soo might harm her. However, Muchan is confident that Min-soo, who is suspected of being Gi-tal, won't harm the children. Ji-yeon feels that Min-soo and Gi-tal might be different people, but Muchan can't arrest Min-soo yet because there isn't enough evidence. At school, Jumin can't find Ji-hoon. Her friends suggest that Ji-hoon might be participating in a demonstration against the government's decision to reduce public welfare funds while providing food and facilities for criminals. This decision has led many people to fully support Gi-tal's executions instead of the state's laws. Not long after, Min-soo also looks for Ji-hoon because a police care team is searching for him, but they can't find Ji-hoon at school or at home. The police then discover that Ji-hoon's house is uninhabited, and neighbors say that no one has lived there for a long time. As time goes by, Korean society has become obsessed with Gi-tal, and almost everyone wears Gi-tal masks freely. At that time, Muchan's team also believes that Gi-tal isn't working alone, and Gi-tal has recruited several people to carry out the executions. Plus, Jin-wook was one of Gi-tal's team members they had arrested. Turns out Muchan's guess was correct. Gi-tal is not just one person, and they have named them in order of numbers. Jin-wook, who was caught by the police, was Gi-tal number 4. Gi-tal number 1 assured the others not to worry about their identities being revealed by number 4, because Jin-wook kept quiet when questioned by the police. They continued discussing the next execution target, who they were happy about because this person was one of those wasting taxpayers' money. They also succeeded in killing prisoners by sabotaging bottled water and giving them medicine disguised as vitamins. This was done by a prison doctor, who turned out to be Ji-hoon's grandmother. The prisoners who took the medicine would die due to heart contractions, and one of these prisoners was Gi-tal's target because he was also the enemy of Gi-tal number 2. However, Gi-tal members never knew each other's identities because they always wore masks. Gi-tal number 5 questioned number 1 because they only held virtual meetings and gave assignments without revealing their faces. The rule among Gi-tals is that they cannot know each other's identities. Meanwhile, Muchan's team arrested Min-soo at his home on suspicion of murdering Gi-chul's wife, based on CCTV footage. Soon after, Min-soo is interrogated again, but this time he will first meet with Sukju. There, Min-soo was surprised to see Sukju, as it was the first time they had come face-to-face in 8 years. However, Min-soo didn't feel guilty and even provoked Sukju about Gi-tal, which made Sukju angry. Muchan tried to calm him down. Suddenly, the execution selection appeared, revealing that Muchan was the next target. At that time, Gi-tal targeted Muchan because he was seen as a bad person who used fake evidence to catch criminals. Then, Gi-tal showed footage of Woo-taek admitting he was tortured by Muchan to confess. Gi-tal also featured a criminal who said that Muchan used fake evidence to arrest him, ruining his life. The police suspected that Min-soo was behind this because the electricity usage at Min-soo's house had increased 30 times more than usual. Jo-dun and Ji-yeon thought something strange was happening at Min-soo's house. Meanwhile, Ji-hoon tried to stop Gi-tal's broadcast. He called his grandmother in prison, who turned out to be Gi-tal number 2. Ji-hoon asked her to temporarily stop killing prisoners with drugs because someone was hacking their computer system and Gi-tal number 5 had betrayed them. As tensions rose at the police station, an emotional Ji-yeon pointed her gun at Min-soo, demanding he stop what he was doing. Meanwhile, Ji-hoon was working hard to stop the election, and he finally succeeded in stopping the vote for Muchan's execution. Because of this incident, Muchan was temporarily suspended, and the police couldn't get a warrant to search Minsu's house because Juyan had pointed a gun at him. Unfortunately, Minsu couldn't be arrested because there was no evidence. After investigating several clues, Muchan began to suspect that Sukju was the real Gital. Sukju had a motive for revenge by orchestrating the execution elections. At the police station, Jian also became suspicious of Sukju and asked about the missing letter, which was sent by Minsu. Suddenly, Jian received a call from Muchan, telling her that Sukju was the real Gital. Then, a car crashed into Sukju's prison room, and Sukju managed to save Jian. It turned out that the car was from Sukju's team, who were there to pick him up. Meanwhile outside, the police were transferring Jinwook, but he rebelled and tried to escape, taking a policeman hostage and causing a riot. On the other hand, Sukju also managed to escape, while Jinwook was shot and fell from the building. At that moment, Jian and Muchan decided to chase the car carrying Sukju. Unfortunately, they failed because Sukju escaped on a motorbike and changed clothes. Sukju had received the first letter from Minsu, which expressed Minsu's pride in the death of Nare and her dog. This deeply hurt Sukju. After Sukju escaped, Muchan's boss was very angry, fearing a big problem if the public and reporters found out that Sukju was out of prison and on the run. This led to a fight between Muchan and his superior, who decided to expel Muchan from the police force. Meanwhile, Jinwook was being treated in the hospital due to the earlier incident. For now, the task of hunting Gital would be led by Jinsu. Muchan promised to catch both Minsu and Sukju. Jinsu suspected that Sukju's reason for running away was to take revenge on Minsu for his daughter's death 8 years ago. However, Jinsu's behavior was strange, as he called someone after Muchan left and informed them that Sukju had escaped. On the other hand, Gital numbers 2 and 1 returned to their headquarters. They saw that their base had been destroyed due to the actions of Gital number 5. They suspected that number 5 had collaborated with Minsu because they believed number 5 couldn't have hacked and changed the systems so quickly on his own. In that moment, Gital number 1 reassured the others not to be afraid because their identities were still safe. They decided to change their plans because of this incident. Surprisingly, Gital number 1 turned out to be Ji-hoon. Not long after, Ju-min sent a message threatening Ji-hoon if he didn't meet her. Ji-hoon met her at the park, and they spent the evening together. Ji-hoon revealed that Ju-min always reminded him of his deceased sister. When Ji-hoon was going home, he saw a shadow and quickly said goodbye to Ju-min, saying his father had picked him up. It turned out that Ji-hoon's father was Sukju, and this was their first meeting after a long time. At home, Ju-min told Jian about her suspicions of Ji-hoon because she knew his parents were divorced. Ju-min felt that Ji-hoon was hiding something, but Jian didn't respond. In the end, Sukju managed to gather his team. It turned out that the Gital executions were Sukju's plan, and he involved Ji-hoon, his grandmother, and others who shared the same desire for revenge. Ji-hoon's grandmother was worried that Gital number 3 might betray them like number 5 did, but Sukju assured her that number 3 wouldn't betray them. He explained that number 3 had been involved with Gital for a long time and would be in danger if he betrayed them. Elsewhere, Minsu meets Dongyu, who is Gital number 5 and has betrayed him. The previous attempt to execute Muchan was the result of Minsu collaborating with Dongyu, who changed the election system. Minsu asked who Gital number 1 was, the one who created such a sophisticated program, but Dongyu didn't know because they always wore masks during meetings. As time went by, the police monitored Minsu's movements. When he returned to school, Ji-hoon tried to copy some data from Minsu's laptop and was almost caught. Luckily, Minsu didn't realize it and scolded Ji-hoon for skipping school for several days. Meanwhile, Jian investigated Sukju's prison room and found a pin that prisoners shouldn't have. There, she concluded that Sukju was collaborating with the guard or head warden. However, Chulming denied the accusation, leading to an argument. On the other hand, Ji-hoon's grandmother is suspected because she is an unofficial prison doctor, just a volunteer. Now, Muchan is looking for Ji-hoon, whose original name was Taeyong. Soon after, Muchan visits Taeyong's old home, but the owner hasn't seen him since he was adopted by Sukju. No one realizes that Ji-hoon is actually Taeyong, who was adopted by Sukju. Not long after, Jian informed Muchan that Sukju was indeed sick while in prison, and the person who took care of him was Ji-hoon's grandmother. Muchan said that escaped prisoners usually go to the people closest to them. Therefore, Muchan and Juyan suspected that Ji-hoon's grandmother had something to do with Sukju. Unfortunately, the news about Sukju's escape spread on TV, with Do-hee providing the information she obtained. Muchan's team was shocked, wondering how someone else found out even though their superiors told all the police to keep quiet. In the evening, Muchan went to Ji-hoon's grandmother's house and asked about Ji-hoon's condition, but Ji-hoon wasn't home. Then, Muchan noticed someone hiding on the second floor. He started looking for information about Sukju's condition while in prison and asked Ji-hoon's grandmother to call him if she saw Sukju. When he was about to leave, Muchan went upstairs out of curiosity, but found no one. After Muchan left, Sukju came down from the second floor, revealing he was hiding in the house. The next day, Jian discovered that Jo Dun had been communicating with Gital No. 1. After knowing that, Jo Dun and Jian tried to catch him by setting a trap in a park. Then, they finally met someone, but it turned out they were tricked by Gital No. 1. Instead, they met Ji-hoon's school friend, who claimed to be Gital's No. 1 fan. The girl gave them a piece of paper with "good weather" written on it, which she mysteriously got from Gital No. 1. Soon after, Jo Dun investigated the message and found out that everyone's phone had a weather app installed. It was revealed that Gital used the weather app to access and send messages to the public. Through this app, he could hack into Korean people's phones. After getting that information, Juyan hurried to inform the television station about this. The public was advised to delete their weather apps to prevent their phones from being hacked by Gital. When Min-soo found out, he was very angry, and his heart condition worsened. Min-soo had tried to take control of the original Gital program thanks to the betrayal of Gital No. 5, which allowed him to access it. However, Ji-hoon, who was actually Gital No. 1, made sure the police discovered the truth about the app. This led to the public being told to delete the app, stopping Min-soo from continuing his actions. After the broadcast, Do-hee was very angry with Juyan for ruining her TV show. They argued, and Do-hee revealed that it was Muchan who leaked the information about Sukju's escape. Turns out, Muchan had deliberately asked Do-hee to report it on television. Jian was furious with Muchan because his actions were always reckless, against procedures, and selfish. Realizing they don't share the same principles, Jian decided to leave Muchan's team and return to her original team to start her own investigation. Not long after, Gital started acting again, this time targeting a person named Banjuk, who had committed real estate and crypto fraud, causing many people to suffer. Surprisingly, some people still voted, showing that not everyone had deleted the weather application. This time, it wasn't Gital from Sukju's team but Min-soo working with Gital No. 5. Meanwhile, Juyan and Jo Dun went to Min-soo's house. They managed to get in by pretending they were there to repair the Wi-Fi. At that time, Jian tried to explore several rooms, especially the second floor, but Min-soo's maid stopped her. However, Jo Dun distracted the maid while Jian secretly went upstairs alone. At first, Jian didn't find anything strange because it was just an ordinary workspace. However, she accidentally moved a cupboard, revealing the key to a secret room. Then, she managed to enter Min-soo's secret room, which was also used to broadcast the previous election. She quickly opened Min-soo's computer to look for important data. With her skills, Jian managed to get in, but she didn't realize the door to the room had closed by itself. Meanwhile, Min-soo was on his way home. Jian panicked because she couldn't get out of the room. Not wanting to waste time, she searched Min-soo's computer and found a video of Nare's murder. The video showed Nare scared, with Woo-taek recording it, as Min-soo and Woo-taek planned to kill her. Soon after, Jian immediately sent the video to Muchan and informed him about the secret room in Min-soo's house. Shortly after, Muchan rushed to help, knowing Jian was trapped. Elsewhere, Ju-min was following Ji-hoon to an internet cafe. She was suspicious of Ji-hoon's behavior and caught him in front of Min-soo's house. There, Ju-min grabbed Ji-hoon's phone, which was communicating with a mysterious number, but she still didn't realize who number 3 was. Ji-hoon managed to dodge the situation, claiming he wanted to give Min-soo a gift to improve his grades since he often skipped class. Suddenly, Min-soo arrived, and both of them hid. There, Ju-min was shocked when she saw her sister's GPS signal inside Min-soo's house. She called Jian to warn her that Min-soo had arrived. However, just as Min-soo was about to enter the house, he got a call from his mother telling him to leave immediately. She had received information about the leaked video of Nare's murder, which was revealed to have been leaked by Jin-soo, Muchan's right-hand man. Then, Min-soo decided not to hide but instead surrendered to the police for his past actions, though he showed no guilt. Besides that, he wiped all the data from his computers remotely, using the laptop he was carrying, eliminating all evidence. Soon after, Muchan arrived to pick up Jiyeon. Following this, the police investigated Min-soo's house, confirming he was a murderer. Jiyeon advised Ju-min to stay away from Min-soo because he was dangerous. In that moment, Ju-min was shocked to learn that the person she admired was a murderer. Afterward, Muchan and his team searched for the place where Nare was murdered but found no evidence. There, Jin-soo advised Muchan to leave, stating the room had been updated and no evidence would be found. He also reminded Muchan that the video had been obtained illegally, which could lead to ethical punishment for the police. Realizing that only his team knew about the video, Muchan suspected that someone within his team had betrayed him. Meanwhile, Ji-hoon informed Sukju that Min-soo had turned himself in for the murder of Nare. This shocked them because their plan to kill Min-soo had failed. Besides that, someone stole Min-soo's laptop from his car. Now, Min-soo was being held temporarily until his trial, and Ji-young's assistant asked the police to give Min-soo his regular medication since he was sick. On the other hand, Ji-young was trying to persuade the police director and commissioner to release her son, insisting that he was innocent and that Woo-taek was the main perpetrator. She also asked for leniency because of Min-soo's illness. At that time, the police director and commissioner were afraid of Ji-young because she had helped them get their current positions. Then, Muchan was surprised to see Ji-young in the director's office. He came to report that Sukju's reason for the execution plan was to take revenge on Min-soo. Meanwhile, Juyeon and Jo-dun were searching for other evidence but couldn't find the laptop Min-soo had brought. Shortly after, Jiyeon sneaked into Min-soo's workspace at school to find his laptop. There, she found Ji-hoon returning Min-soo's laptop. Jiyeon thought Ji-hoon also wanted to check the laptop's contents, but she didn't know that Ji-hoon had already taken the data. Meanwhile, Muchan's team began investigating and gathering information about the motives for the executions and why Jin-wook and Dong-yu joined Sukju to target certain people. At that time, Jo-dun was still puzzled about why Min-soo had targeted Muchan for execution, even though Min-soo and Sukju were supposed to be enemies. They didn't realize that Min-soo had hacked the execution program. Later, Jiyeon reported that Min-soo's laptop had no data. She apologized for investigating alone without telling Muchan, but she still couldn't accept Muchan's work ethics. In the evening, Sukju met Do-hee at a cafe. At first, Do-hee was scared because she knew Sukju was the main Gital, but Sukju's goal wasn't to harm her. Instead, he wanted her help to create a joint TV show to boost ratings. Then, Do-hee was asked to create a show featuring Gital live on television. Everyone was surprised that the real Gital came to the studio. Even Do-hee's boss was shocked by the event. At that moment, they tried to stop it, but couldn't. Now, everyone watched Gital's confession on television. Gital explained about the previous app, saying that if people updated it now, they would see all the content prepared in the app. It turned out that the event was not live, but a recorded broadcast. Today, the public finally learned the truth about Min-soo thanks to the app, which contained a lot of crime data about him. This was because Ji-hoon had managed to steal data from Min-soo's laptop. Meanwhile, Muchan began to realize that Kim Ji-hoon was Sukju's adopted son. The evidence he found fit perfectly and was not a coincidence. Muchan also noticed that the execution selections were always at 10 p.m., the time when high school students left school. Jiyeon was very surprised to hear this because she always thought Ji-hoon was a good child. Then, Muchan ordered his team to monitor the area where Ji-hoon and his grandmother lived. In prison, Min-soo had a heart attack after taking his medicine. It turned out that one of the detectives had conspired with Sukju to poison Min-soo. Min-soo was rushed to the hospital, all part of Sukju's plan. Jin-wook, who had recovered, managed to escape from the hospital and kidnapped Min-soo. There was a fight because Jin-wook accidentally met Dong-yu, Gital number 5, who had betrayed him. In the end, Jin-wook managed to escape with Min-soo, while Ji-hoon escaped from police surveillance. Unfortunately, Ji-hoon's grandmother was caught by Muchan and Jin-soo for the murder of prisoners and being Gital's accomplice. There, Min-soo realized that he was tied up and saw Sukju, several cameras, and the other Gitals. Soon after, Sukju planned the next execution, targeting Min-soo, and told him to repent and admit all his mistakes if he wanted to live. However, Min-soo didn't care about his life and provoked Sukju, making him even more annoyed. The execution broadcast began, and the police team immediately searched for Min-soo to save him. Min-soo mocked not only Sukju but all of society, causing the public to vote yes to execute him. Shortly after, the police finally found the execution location, thanks to information from Dongyu, who had been caught. Jian searched an internet cafe suspected to be Gital's hiding place. The election ended with 87% voting to execute Min-soo. When Sukju was about to kill Min-soo, Muchan's team arrived to save him. At that time, Sukju forbade Muchan from helping Min-soo, reminding him that Muchan also wanted to kill Min-soo 8 years ago. However, Muchan chose to help Min-soo. Meanwhile, Jian discovered that Gital number 1 was Ji-hoon. Due to this incident, Sukju was arrested along with 2 of his men. Jin-soo was in the car with Min-soo, being taken to the police station, while Muchan was in the car with Sukju. On the way, Ji-young called Jin-soo to ask about her son's condition and where the car carrying Sukju was, intending to get rid of him. There, Jin-soo told her that Sukju was in the back car, even though it was the car driven by Jin-soo, carrying Min-soo. A truck then hit the rear car, as Ji-young thought it contained Sukju. The crash caused a major accident, leaving Jin-soo and Min-soo unconscious. In that moment, Muchan tried to help them, while Chulming assisted Sukju. Turns out, Sukju attempted to kill Min-soo on the spot, while Jin-wook died in the crash. Unfortunately, Sukju's actions were interrupted by Muchan, until Muchan was attacked by Chulming from behind. This allowed Sukju to stab Min-soo several times. Muchan was struggling due to Chulming's attack, and Min-soo eventually died in a car explosion. Chulming then took Sukju away to escape, while Muchan couldn't move due to his injuries. Meanwhile, Ji-hoon managed to escape with help from Ju-min. In the end, everyone died except Muchan, Sukju, and Jin-soo. Ji-young was devastated to see her son burned in the car. Long story short, after seeing Jin-soo in critical condition, Muchan's boss thought it was Sukju's doing, as he had crashed the car. Soon after, Muchan went to the prison to find out Chulming's relationship with Sukju. However, the chief warden didn't think Chulming was Sukju's ally, as Chulming always seemed to dislike Sukju. Unexpectedly, Chulming had been involved in various executions. He even crashed into the prison and stole Min-soo's laptop. Chulming was also present at Sukju's trial 8 years ago. Meanwhile, Jian discovered from Jin-soo's phone history that Jin-soo had been betraying and collaborating with Ji-young. But they also found out that Jin-soo lied to Ji-young and was willing to sacrifice himself by getting hit. Long story short, Sukju and Ji-hoon became fugitives. Ji-hoon's grandmother, who was in prison, refused to eat or talk. Jian tried to persuade her to talk about Ji-hoon, but she refused and said that she and Ji-hoon were not actually related. However, she eventually told everything with a promise that Jian would help Ji-hoon and not harm him. Then, Ji-hoon's grandmother explained that it was all her fault and had nothing to do with Ji-hoon. She admitted to killing the criminal by poisoning their drinks, saying the execution plan was her way of seeking justice. Meanwhile, Ji-hoon was staying in an empty apartment with Ju-min. Ju-min asked Ji-hoon to stay there for a while, but Muchan and Ju-yeon began to suspect Ju-min because her GPS movements were very strange. At that time, they tried to catch Ji-hoon at the apartment, but he had already left, and Ju-min didn't know where he went, as he disappeared without saying a word. Shortly after, Ji-hoon met Sukju somewhere, where Sukju planned to surrender and asked Ji-hoon to go abroad for a peaceful life. Sukju promised they would meet again and asked Muchan to remove Ji-hoon from the criminal list. Soon after, Chulming arrived with a fake passport for Ji-hoon to go abroad. Chulming, as Gital number 3, had been Sukju's most loyal follower. After investigating, Muchan found out that Sukju was at Chulming's former house, so they rushed there. Muchan also told Ju-yeon to look for Ji-hoon. Meanwhile, Do-hee was kidnapped by Ji-young's assistant. They planned to use Do-hee to make a TV show about the execution selection, targeting Sukju. Elsewhere, Ji-hoon went to Ju-min's house, feeling it was the safest place. However, he was shocked by an execution choice made by Sukju, where Sukju admitted all his mistakes and targeted himself. The next day, the TV show started showing the hunt for Sukju, hosted by Ji-young on behalf of Do-hee. There, Ji-young also offered 100 million won to anyone who could find Sukju. Everyone was shocked, but Ju-yeon realized it was a recording, not a live broadcast. And Ji-hoon, seeing this on TV, was surprised because his father hadn't told him about the execution. Then, he tried to call Chulming, but Chulming didn't reveal their location and asked Ji-hoon not to disturb them again. The following day, Ji-hoon started looking for Sukju, but Ju-min told him to just surrender. Ji-hoon didn't care and promised to turn himself in if he succeeded in saving his father. Then, Ju-min decided to go with Ji-hoon and informed Ju-yeon that Ji-hoon had left. Meanwhile, Muchan and the team raided Sukju and Chulming's location. Muchan realized that Sukju planned to hurt himself after the election. However, Ji-hoon suddenly did a live broadcast and admitted that he was Gi-tao, the one behind the execution program. And Ji-young, learning this, offered 200 million won to anyone who caught Ji-hoon. Ji-hoon explained in his broadcast that Sukju shouldn't be chosen because all his actions were not his fault. There, Ji-hoon revealed that he was Sukju's adopted son and talked about how the murder of his sister Nare 8 years ago destroyed his family. He blamed Ji-young for using power and money to cover up the case. Ji-hoon's story touched people's hearts, making them feel sorry for him and his family. Many decided not to vote for Sukju's execution, and the election was cancelled because less than 50% voted. On the other hand, Ji-young was furious and demanded the police director kill Sukju, having spent a lot of money. Ji-hoon was happy with the failed voting results and called his grandmother. She apologized to Ji-hoon for the hardships he faced and asked him to surrender because the police promised to protect him. Ji-hoon agreed, knowing the police had found Sukju's location. Soon after, school bullies came after Ji-hoon, hoping to get the 200 million won reward for capturing him. Meanwhile, Muchan's boss raided Ji-young's house to rescue Do-hee. Ji-young manipulated the situation to make it look like Do-hee was collaborating with her. So Do-hee and the police had to leave without arresting Ji-young. At that time, Ji-yeon arrived too late to find Ji-hoon, discovering him and Ju-min badly beaten by the bullies. They were live-streaming the attack and asking viewers to vote on executing Ji-hoon. Ji-hoon initially fought back, but lost focus when Ji-yeon arrived and was fatally hit. Before dying, Ji-hoon gave Ji-yeon a flash drive. Muchan was trying to stop Sukju from doing the unthinkable. In that moment, Chulming had fled, but Muchan managed to save Sukju just in time. Soon after, Sukju was arrested, and Ji-yeon confronted him for involving Ji-hoon in his plan, making Sukju cry over causing another child's death. Before being taken to prison, Muchan let Sukju remember his children. Suddenly, Chulming appeared, took Ji-yeon hostage, and revealed he wanted Sukju dead. Then, Sukju offered Chulming a flash drive to make a deal. When Chulming reached for it, Muchan shot, causing both Chulming and Sukju to fall into the ocean. Several days later, the police couldn't find the bodies of Chulming and Sukju, so they closed the case, declaring Sukju dead. However, Muchan didn't give up and kept searching for evidence about Nare's murder. Shortly after, he discovered the place where Nare was killed and found her blood from 8 years ago. Muchan also arrested Ji-young for bribery and hiding evidence. Though Ji-young was not imprisoned, her assistant took the blame. The next day, Muchan's team got promoted, but Ji-yeon refused to join because she didn't agree with Muchan's work style. She returned to her old police station, while Jo Dun stayed with Muchan and started dating a teammate. Then, Jin-soo retired and opened a shop. On the other hand, Ji-young seemed to regret her actions and became a volunteer at an orphanage. But after pretending to be good for a while, she planned to take revenge with a new partner. Meanwhile, Muchan continued to deal with people involved in the old case. The next day, Ji-yeon got news that an unknown man was found in the Sea of Japan, and the series ends there. The moral lesson from this series is sometimes, no matter how hard you try to catch the bad guys, they might just turn into fish food. And always double-check if your work buddies are secretly villains plotting world domination.